I'm Eric Osiakwan. I'm from Ghana, and I'm a technology entrepreneur who became an angel investor. Basically, focused on investing in tech startups, early stage. So I do ideation, value hypothesis, and growth hypothesis. So we invest between 25K to 5 million, and we're very active, involved in the businesses, mostly tech, mobile web startups. Under the auspices of Chanzo Capital. Chanzo is a Swahili word for early stage. So I'm going to talk about how you tap into the Africa's tech ecosystem. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit, some big facts about Africa, and then I'm going to focus on the proving success of Africa, and then I'm going to then zero into what's happening next, sort of into the future, and how you can connect into the ecosystem. So let's get started. So Africa is boomtown, and by that what I mean is that if you look at some of the figures, it's really, really interesting. What is most interesting in this slide is that if you look at the GDP flows into Africa, it's going to go up to 159 billion by 2025. Africa's mobile subscription this year will hit 1 billion people. And Facebook users in Africa went up all the way to 100 million last year. 10 of the fastest growing economies in the world are in Africa. Out of those 10 fastest growing economies, 5 of them are resource-based. The other 5 are service sector-led, right? So the growth we're seeing in Africa is not just resource growth, right? There's a very strong service sector growth that is happening in Africa. And with a lot of people don't pay attention to that. Now, if you look on this side of the slide, you've seen a huge impact on GDP growth across most African countries. And this, you see the correlation also with mobile additions and FDI inflows into Africa. This is sort of hitting on a growing middle class that we're seeing in Africa. So if you look at this map over there, the top green is sort of the rich, and now you see the red, which is a gap that is widening. So we're having a growing middle class, and that's really, really interesting in Africa. The potential of Africa's internet is incredible. If you look at the figures today, 10 years from now, it's basically going to quadruple, right? So this shows you that there's a huge future for internet in Africa, and that's why I'm investing in the future of Africa, by investing in the entrepreneurs. Now, there's been an interesting proving success of Africa, and I was saying this a little bit during lunch, that just 15 years ago, there were more landlines in Manhattan than the whole of Africa. And Africa is, the land mass size of Africa is 4 times that of the United States. Right? 10 years fast forward, Africa has more cell phones than the whole of the United States. Right? So, and over that same period, a lot of these technology companies that build the cell phone infrastructure that you're seeing, a lot of them were African businesses. MTN, Celtel, Glo, that you see are companies that were started by Africans in Africa, right? So Freshfield Capital is Freshfield. It's a U.S. law firm that did a study. What they did was that they took 40 companies in about 10 countries, stock markets in Africa, and look at their returns over a decade. And what they found was very interesting. The TMT sector, which is mostly technology, returned 19%. Now, 19%, and look at the African index, is 11%. Now, the resource sector, oil and gas, was 6%. Right? So actually, over the last decade, the telecom sector has actually given more returns in the capital markets across Africa. And so these are capital markets in Africa, right, than you will see any sector do. And this sort of establishes the fact that Africa is a high-risk destination, but in business, if you take high risk, you have higher returns. Right? So I think that when you then look at U.S. companies and multinationals that invest in Africa, they say Africa is very high risk, but they get huge and incredible returns when they invest in Africa. So sometimes I wonder why this story is not out there, right? Because it's a very legitimate part of the story that needs to be out there. I put up some links also around acquisition. so U.S. companies are acquiring African startups. Last year, U.S. company Kirusa acquired Salir, which is a company I used to mentor. Telcos, which is sort of a UK-based fund, did 2 exits last year in Africa. And there are numerous stories. Silicon Valley is paying attention to Africa. Of course, the Chinese are all over Africa. They show up and they're doing business. And so I think that the United States and African Americans and North America in general needs to pay more attention. You need to look into investing more in Africa. So the other side of this Africa leapfrog story, which I was telling you, is that Africa is not only mobile first, right? So we went straight into mobile. We leapfrogged the fixed line infrastructure because there was none, right? It's part of the reason why mobile was exponential. But also that we're mobile only. So there's no cable infrastructure that you have here. So the mobile device is most Africans' first access to communication, 1, 2, their first line of access to the web. Right? So most people are seeing the web first on their phone. And the mobile web platform is the opportunity platform, right? So we're going to be seeing more innovations around that. And this has been enhanced by the submarine cable infrastructure that has grown around Africa. Happy to be involved in this revolution as well. We built the first submarine cable that connected East Africa to the Middle East, the Thames submarine cable. So this is enabling an entrepreneurial ecosystem that is emerging. Right? So in my view, the next iteration, the next disruption is, as people are now increasingly connected and have mobile and broadband on the mobile, there's going to be another disruption, which is mobile is now going to start fixing market bottlenecks, inefficiencies, that sort of stuff. Right. And this is not new. You've seen this in North America. They went to Europe. They went to the last time was in Asia and Southeast Asia, and that's going to happen in Africa. So we're seeing a new generation of entrepreneurs who are basically unleashing their creative juices and using mobile web technology to solve various interesting challenges. Yesterday morning when I got in, I had a call with a new startup that emailed me. And these guys are just finding interesting ways to use mobile web technology to solve traffic problems in Nigeria, in Lagos. And it's just interesting how they're thinking about using web technology to inform people, give them different routes, and that sort of stuff, right? And this is happening across a lot of countries in Africa. So there's a lot of entrepreneurial spirit, innovation that we're seeing, and that is the next disruption. And basically, it's based on the mobile platform as the opportunity platform. So now let me get you a little bit into the ecosystem. So how is this happening? The first set of guys to pay attention to is the AfriLabs network. So there's a growing network over the last probably 5 years of incredible incubators, hubs, startup spaces where these entrepreneurs are hanging out, connecting with each other, learning how to write code, beginning to basically create their own technologies, so solving problems. And this network is now about 120 hubs spread across the continent, South Africa, Ghana, all the way to Cairo, Egypt, and Morocco. So one way is to connect through this ecosystem of labs, and I think I see them here as well. Tomorrow I'll be visiting one in South Beach. The next sort of actors in the ecosystem is accelerators. The difference is accelerators basically either give you some startup money, but also they give you the tools to then create the business, right? Or they actively work with entrepreneurs, or they actively engage entrepreneurs in residence to create businesses that solve market bottlenecks. And we've seen a host of them, from Mest in Ghana to LeadPath, 88MPH. You can see them all over the continent, based in different countries, and this is growing. This is becoming a phenomenal growth sector that is really getting a lot of entrepreneurs up and running. The next level of actors, of course, is capital is very important, right? So you got a great idea, you got an environment to get your first code written, you've got all that stuff. But the next thing is you need capital to be able to get the business going. And so there's a new generation of angel investors. So I'm one of them. And I started together with another friend of mine, Andy Linkau, we started Angel Africa List, which is a network of angel investors across the continent. There's the Africa Business Angel Network, which is sort of a network of country-specific angel groups. So there's the Lagos Angel Network, there's the Ghana Angel Investor Network. And now there are also angel groups that do syndicates. So one of them is Angel Africa Network. Basically what they do is that they bring angel investors together into a syndicate and invest in different businesses. And then there's the new generation angels that basically focus on diaspora capital. So they are looking for Africans in the diaspora, African Americans, and basically connecting them to startups. That's really powerful. And then the early stage funds, what I call, in some cases, micro VC. So we are a micro VC. So we're not your typical sort of VC fund, but we do a little bit earlier, smaller tickets between 25K and 5 million US. There's 4DI Capital based in South Africa. There's Africa Fund. John Gosia will be speaking to that. That's how I met John when he started Africa Fund, Ugandan. We've done some stuff together on the continent. There's recently Savannah Fund, Angel Hub Ventures, Aya Ventures. So you can see there's a growing community of early stage capital that is looking at the ecosystem. So yes, if you want to invest your capital, these are some of the funds or early stage funds that you can connect with, co-invest with them or invest in the fund, etc. And then recently we've seen a phenomenon where the telcos, the big mobile operators, are now beginning to also get into investing in the ecosystem, right? So MTN, which is the biggest telecom operator in Africa and the Middle East, seeded a fund with Amadeus Capital. Orange, which is the French telco, basically started what they call Orange Digital Ventures, investing in early stage companies. Millicom Foundation, Safaricom started an investment fund. Airtel has Catapult, a startup fund. So it's interesting to see that the telcos are beginning to seed this next generation of entrepreneurs. And then sort of all this pitching and crowdfunding opportunities. So Angel Africa List, we started an event we call Angel Fair Africa, which is an event where we curate entrepreneurs from around the continent and then bring them into a room to pitch to the angel investors. Right? So we've done 2 events. We did one in 2013 in South Africa. Last year we did Nigeria, and this year we're going to hopefully do Ghana. But the idea is basically, so you go into a room like this, and the crowd here is angel investors, and then the entrepreneurs come and then they pitch. And the idea is to create that connection. So again, it's an event that you're welcome to. If you want to meet some of the interested entrepreneurs, drop me an email, we can connect and that sort of stuff. And then there's Africa Innovation Foundation that does an innovation prize for Africa. They basically select 3 top businesses, give them between 1,000, 100,000, and I think the first company gets 100,000, then the second 25,000 each. But the idea is for them to use that money to start the business. There's VC for Africa, which is a crowdfunding platform, online crowdfunding platform, where you can go in there, be a member, and you see a lot of deals that you can connect with. There's the Africa Innovation Summit, which is an interesting summit that started in Cape Verde last year. I was a speaker in the inaugural event. And they also have, basically, it's a summit where they exhibit startups, and you can see all these interesting startups that you can invest in. And I thought I also mentioned a few new startup news sources. So if you want to keep abreast with sort of some of the startup news in Africa, Smart Monkey TV, Disrupt Africa, Tech Cabal, Venture Ban. If you put these in Google, I'm sure you'll see their website, etc., and you can follow what's going on.